Hello again. It is right off the bat. Sorry about that. Rudy G Funk. Kind of sorry I didn't do a fourth preseason preview. Oh, I'm a little bright there. Excuse me. Let me adjust me stuff there. There we go. That's better. I did want to do a week 4 preview on the preseason, but it's at week 4. It was nice to see Baker out there. He looks pretty good. He looks everything that Dorsey saw in him. I think that pocket presence is pretty impressive. But I'm not going to go into a Tyrod Baker thing. Obviously they're putting Tyrod out there, and that's it. And what really kind of concerned me was those the waiver cuts. I really don't hear. I did hear everybody talking about it, but I didn't hear anybody really talking about it like this. And of course, any of my friends, you might as well not even bother watching this video because I think we've talked about it before. But the issues of the waivers and some of these guys that left us, and I think I'm being honest, even though I was a big Carl Nassib fan, it is the business, and when you see guys you let go, that's a little upsetting, but I'm not devastated just because he left. I was just a little upset that the 3 of them had gone, and when I say the 3, I mean some of our blue-collar guys, Nassib, Brantley, and Meter, really added to our depth a lot. I think, and it was pretty noticeable in preseason because our defense played well pretty much the entire game up until last seconds of the game. There was some real conformity there, I thought, with the defense, and to see these guys get cut kind of all at once and get replaced by waiver guys, whom, for the most part, nobody knows. I think I tried to look at their numbers a little bit, try to just decipher numerically whether these guys were any good or not, and I didn't really see anything that stood out, so, I guess we're all in hopes that these guys can give us the depth that we had with Brantley and Meter and Nassib. Of course, you saw Nassib got immediately picked up by Tampa Bay, which is another one of my other concerns, almost like the Joe Hayden thing, where I wasn't a huge Joe Hayden fan. The one thing that did upset me was that we didn't get anything for him, which I thought he was at least tradable, and I think a lot of people put that on Sashi or just being the Browns. Who wants to trade with the Browns? Who's going to give anything for any Browns because of our record and our history, recent history. But I certainly thought that these 3 guys had trade value, and I would say especially Nassib. So that was a little upsetting to kind of just see them cut and gone. And it's not just because I liked them. It's what I heard them say. And I'm not talking about Hugh or Haslam or anything like that. I'm talking about guys like Clyde Simmons and Greg Williams, where these guys, if I understand correctly, and please comment, if you think I'm wrong or I'm wrong, these guys were a part of first-string packages, which... that bothers me, especially about this Pittsburgh game. I hope we don't see, you got Garrett and those guys who kind of played a quarter or a few, not a few snaps, but a few series in some of these preseason games. They're going to be playing a whole game tomorrow, this being the eve of the Pittsburgh game. And I really hope we don't see all these guys on the field all the time, which I know it all sounds good, but these guys do need what would you call them, snap relief, where you could put Nassib in at the end, on second or third down, or Meter on the inside, or Brantley on the inside, and just to rehash who all these three guys are. You know, Nassib is obviously, he hasn't even really played that much football, but played at a very high level at Penn State. And if you listen to Clyde Simmons, was a pretty good relief guy. And he, his words were, you know, thank God we had guys like Nassib last year for some of these injuries because he filled in so well, which I think a lot of people probably don't agree with that. Maybe they weren't paying attention, but I do. I saw him get back there quite a bit and get chop blocked illegally. That wasn't called. I think there was one series where I saw him get back there twice, and the running back chop blocked him, and it looked like it hurt him, you know, and he still didn't get the call. So Meter was another guy where actually after his first year, I saw some stuff on YouTube that troubled me about him. Some of the stuff he was doing, or some of the places he was lacking, Sheldon would have to try to augment somehow. You know, he would have to play better just to make up for Meter being next to him. But then Meter, you know, I thought Meter was going to be cut the year before, and he turned it up, man. He come back and he looked really good. He was holding steady at his position, and it was nice to see that. Only to be cut now, I thought was a little weird, you know. So I hope it's not some kind of getting rid of Sashi's guys kind of thing where we just swipe the slate clean. You know, I'm hearing stuff like, well, these were 0-16 guys or something like that, and he was kind of doing it. And I really hope it's not that. I hope Dorsey sees that, you know, some of these waiver guys we got are just as good as them, and I hope that's the case, but I just don't think so. You know, it just doesn't really, it doesn't make much sense to me that we got all three of these guys, which held our depth that Simmons and Williams seemed to be so passionate about, you know, how deep we were. I hope we haven't lost that depth. I hope we don't see, you know, third and fourth quarter, our guys who are all the first string guys, you know, your Garrett's, your Ogunjobis, your Ogbas, these guys that have to take every snap, and then we're getting in the third and fourth quarter and they're just running on us because these guys are tired and not getting that kind of relief that you would like to give them because of our depth. So I'm a little pessimistic on tomorrow's game because of that. I think that's something that should have been talked about a little bit more, which it doesn't really matter. It already happened ultimately, but more of an accountability type thing. You know, everybody made a huge deal about Hayden, you know, getting cut or let go. And to me, these three were so much more valuable than Hayden was. You know, and I'm not cutting on Hayden. You know, like I said, I wasn't a Hayden guy, but, you know, even looking at his numbers, he wasn't a bad cornerback. You know, he just wasn't great. He wasn't worth the money he was getting paid, so I wasn't terribly disappointed when he got cut or when he got let go. And I think a lot of people were, just because he seemed like this kind of cornerstone of the Browns, stuff like that. And I know you guys get emotionally attached to these guys and they want to keep them, and, you know, and I do too. But I wasn't nearly upset with the Hayden cut as I was with these guys. I do think they added a lot of depth to our defense, and I hope that doesn't come to fruition tomorrow, where we don't look as deep, we don't look as solid the whole game because of that. And I know everybody would like, we'll just have our first stringers out there in every snap, and they wouldn't need relief. Or, you know, obviously Garrett's you know, the best athlete out there probably on the field, but when you're getting these little tweaks and stuff that he's probably going to get, I hope that doesn't get him closer to getting hurt. You know, if he's used to a normal relief, or not playing every 3 or 4 plays or whatever, however that might go. So I'm a little concerned about that, especially against Pittsburgh. You know, I think a lot of people think we're going to win because they look at last year as if analytically we can actually analyze that as being the same as this year because it was the first game, you know. And really don't want to take that kind of look because I really think that Pittsburgh's going to be prepared for us tomorrow. I really don't think that just because Le'Veon isn't there, that they don't have any running game, because Connor looks pretty good and they seem pretty happy with his running so far. So why we would think that the Le'Veon Bell incident would rehash itself, that we're all of a sudden just going to stop this guy, because he's not Le'Veon Bell. Where Le'Veon Bell wasn't Le'Veon Bell last year when we played him. So I thought, I kind of heard a little bit of that on the radio too, which I kind of agree with. I think Pittsburgh's better off not having him this game. Give him a chance to conform to what the rest of the team's up to and get up to speed and stuff like that. And, ultimately I don't care about what happens to Pittsburgh, but, to try to look at this realistically is kind of why I want to do this channel. I want to look at it as realistically as possible. And I'm pessimistic about tomorrow because of those cuts, and maybe because of that mindset that, we're going to guarantee stop the run just because Le'Veon Bell isn't there, when Connor looks like he's coming along pretty good, and it is Pittsburgh. And I don't know if you guys ever watch any of the stuff of theirs on YouTube, their interviews or anything like that. After these cuts, Hugh had a press conference, and he looked really nervous to me. And I don't ultimately know anything. I don't know exactly what made him look so nervous, and I'm not some fucking CIA guy where I can just read people or anything. But he seemed really nervous to me just by his hand gestures and everything he was doing as he was being asked these questions. And it was right after those cuts. So I'd like to think it was a team thing when it came down to the cuts, and I don't mean to keep raving about that, but I'd hate for this to be the reason that we lose the game, is because we don't have that depth anymore. And, obviously the whole team didn't get cut, but I'm really trying to be rational about this, and I think a lot of people did recognize it, that was a little bit weird. Everybody had their player. Like, some people like Nassib, they were surprised he got cut. Some people like Meter, they were surprised he got cut. I didn't hear too much about Brantley. I liked Brantley. I thought he was starting to come along pretty good. It sounded like he was coming along pretty good. So it's just interesting that everybody kind of recognized it, but never really talked about it impeding our progress as a team, because we did look so good all 4 of these preseasons. I know they're preseasons, but without these guys, I'd hate to be losing that step that we had. It really did look like the whole defense as a whole was looking good. It looked like, to me, that if Nassib was in there for a snap, or Brantley was in there for a snap, or Meter was in there for a snap, that we were going to do just fine, that they weren't just going to run over us, spot them, and be able to get away with anything. We were conforming. So that really does bother me about that, and I have to admit, I really don't think we're going to win this game as optimistic as I would love to be. Everybody gets excited because of the preseason, how well we did, and I get that, and you got to temper that. You got to pump the brakes on that. The offense, really, I don't want to say impotent, but, it really didn't do much in preseason. It didn't show much, and that goes to the old cliche. Well, they'll say, well, they're not going to show much because it's in preseason. But, I would have liked to see them do a little bit better. I am excited about our offense at the same time, though. With Gordon and what's his name, the rookie, I did see a little promise, but at the same time, the rookie's doing well when he got in with the second and third guys. So everything kind of gets kind of like my other video where the waters are so muddy, you can't really appraise the situation. I just try to deduce this in my head, especially with those cuts. And that's what gets me a little pessimistic about this game. But, it's the Browns. we got to get out there and give it our all. These guys got to fight and claw and do whatever it takes, man, to beat these guys. I just hope that we run the hell out of the ball, and I hope it's both of them. I hope they're shoving it up their asses with Carlos and Chubb. I hope they run the hell out of this thing, run the clock out. I hope I hope we win like 21-18, kind of like a reverse of what happened last year. I don't mind at all. I want to see us running the ball, and I want to see our talented guys getting the ball as well. I can't put too much to Gordon just because, and I don't want to say he disappears, but he just really hasn't played that much football, and it's hard to count. Or the rookie, either one of them. It's like it's hard. They haven't really played that much football. It's hard to say, even though we know they're as talented as they are, that they're just going to go out there and blow it up. Even Landry. Once the other team's getting, firing all on engines too, all of a sudden he doesn't really look so great out there. If they keep him off his marks, it could possibly be ugly. That's what kind of scares me. I really don't want to see an ugly game tomorrow. I want to see a really competitive game. I want to run the ball all over the place. And I just want to see good fundamental football, and win or loss, obviously I hope they win because it's the Browns. It'll be great to whoop the hell out of Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's ready for us. And I totally disagree with everybody's mindset that they're, and I've said this myself, where Pittsburgh doesn't really start playing until the third or fourth game of the season or something like that. I really don't think this is going to be the case. One of the other things, like Roethlisberger, they said after every practice he had the ice packs on his knees. So and this could be BS or PR or whatever, but we're hearing stuff like he's been taking better care of himself. The line's been taking better care of him. And he looks like he's firing on all thrusters. So I really don't think this is even close to being any kind of easy game. Not that anybody said that. But we're getting full on Pittsburgh without Le'Veon Bell. That's kind of what this video is. And I hope we can scratch and claw ourselves away to a win. And I hope they realize that that's what they're going to have to do. That's my kind of appraisal, is they have to be going 100. Every one of them has to be going 110% to win this game, because it is Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is solid. Tomlin is a good coach. I don't necessarily know about their offensive coordinator, but they seem pretty comfortable with him, and I don't want to compare him to Haley. It has to be that way. They have to come out and they got to kick Pittsburgh in the balls, and they got to step on their throat, and they got to keep their boot there until there is no time left. That's how we have to win this game. And I want to do it with fundamental football. I don't want any college tricks or flea flickers from the end zone and triple, I don't want to see none of that. I want to shove the ball up their ass with Chubb, and I want to dink and dunk, to Gordon and these guys, Taylor, Landry. And let's just chip away, and let's just play good fundamental football and kind of beat them at their own game in a certain sense, that would be great. One last announcement, Stumbler, A-Dog, and I will be going live during the game. So anybody that for some reason can't possibly watch the game, but they got Wi-Fi, just hook up to Rudy G Funk. We're going to try our first live trial during the game tomorrow. A pretty amateur commentation, so I have to warn you. But it should be fun. It should be cool to do this for the first time. I like watching some of the other guys that do this, and that's why I'm thinking, it's fucking free. Why not do it? If it fails, I'm not afraid to fail. So I guess that's just about all I have to say. Go Browns, man. Go Browns, baby. In a couple hours, we're going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in a real game. and it's going to be great, and I'm going to love it. Win or loss, go Browns. God bless you. Peace.